Good morning, everyone. It is your favorite place to be. First and third Tuesday of the month. It is From the Ground Up. Real time issues with real time solutions for MWBEs and small businesses. Sponsored by Queen Strategy Partners, Nicole Valentine Esquire, Danielle Douglas, and myself, Dr. Stacey N.C. Grant. We thank you for tuning in, sharing the show. Today, you want to share the show. We're going to be talking about the components of your brand identity, but more importantly, you have some experts here. So if you love somebody, if you care about somebody this morning, share the broadcast. Let them know that we are live today and we're going to have a great dialogue. We always bring you what you need. But the best part of the show for me is I get to introduce my co-host, the beautiful, the dynamic Danielle Douglas. Over to you, Danielle.
Well, thank you as always, Miss Dr. Stacey N.C. Grant. And I want to say good morning to you all. I hope that your day has started with feeling the rays of sunshine and it started off on a good note. But guess what? If you're here, I guarantee you your day is going to go really well moving forward. And so with that said, what is today about? It's about the different components of branding. So, Stacey and I, we took a little break. We've been talking to you about other things, but guess what? It's back to collaboration. Collaboration is the key moving forward in 2021. And so we want to share with you all the ways you need to ensure the things you have in place to have a fabulous collaboration. And so what is today about? The last time we spoke about how do you find your collaborators and what does that look like? Well, guess what? You found them. And now it's time to brand that joint venture, that collaboration. So it's unified and cohesive. So with that said, as Miss Dr. Stacey N.C. Grant said, we got two fabulous ladies with us today. They are on and popping, and they're going to share with you all the different ways that you can ensure you have a great brand for your collaboration. So I'm going to turn it back over to Miss Dr. Stacey N.C. Grant. Back to you, Stacey.
Well, look, let me give you some applause, Danielle, just because I can. And, it's just wonderful having you as a co-host. And now we're going to hear from our two special guests, Pam Perry from Pam Perry PR and Daniela Chantel. They're going to tell you a little bit about themselves, but let's go on, Danielle. That's how
we're going to have a little
up.
party up in here also. We're going to make this fun.
Absolutely. That's how we wake everybody up for our show. So we're going to start with you, Pam. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do before we get into all these components of your brand identity.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Stacey. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you for having me. You guys are just party so early in the morning, lashes and everything. I just thank you all so much for having me at this Queen Strategy Partners live. Okay. So my name, Pam Perry PR. That is really, PR has been my career for the last 3 decades or so. And I love working with authors and speakers. I'm also the publisher of Speakers Magazine. And I also have a podcast called Get Out There and Get Known. My main mission in life is to help other speakers and authors get out there and get known. That's really the main thing. People call me a PR angel because I help people manifest media, traditional media, radio, TV, and print. So my clients have been on everything from CNN and PBS to yesterday, some on BBC, Al Jazeera, Radio One, Black Enterprise, and the like. So I love helping people get out there and get known.
Thank you, Pam. We'll give you a round of applause. And Danita, over to you.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Stacey. I call you Dr. Sunshine. And Danielle, it's such a pleasure to meet you ladies and also to converse with you this morning. Your energy is ecstatic, and I cannot believe it this early in the morning that you ladies are just phenomenal. But it's waking me up. It's waking our audience up. My name is Daniela Chantel, and I have a background in medicine and merged over into media, and I'm in the business of people. I love connecting people. I love finding out their stories about their brands, about what they can offer to the world. And I got into marketing and management accidentally. I feel like it was sort of a purpose that I did have, an innate trait, but I got into it accidentally. When I was working in media, people would always ask me about placement, knowing someone, I'm a connector. And I just started working with people. I consulted with Dr. Stacy a few times because people were always picking my brains, asking for information about how to get placement, how to get visibility, how to strategize and place themselves in the positions that they want to be in. And like I said, I transitioned from medicine to media, and branding was a very important component with me finding my identity in placement. So like I said, I'm in the business of people, helping them to put their best face forward and helping to show the world what they have to offer.
And we
Thank
love it.
you.
We're going to give you some applause as well. So I'm going to kick it back over to Danielle to get us started on this conversation of the components of your brand identity. I mean, our show is for MWBEs. Those who don't know, that's minority women-owned business enterprises and small businesses. So that's our audience, and especially those in the professional space. If you don't know that somebody needs to know about you, then you don't know that you won't be profitable. Like, oh my goodness. So Danielle, let's just go into it. What do we need to get from our experts today?
So we're going to start off with Pam. Pam, how do you develop the message you're trying to convey to your target audience?
Ooh, that's a good one. So Danielle, so before we even develop the message and the pictures and the websites and all that, let's just kind of sit still for a minute and figure out, like, who are we? Who we be? Who we be? And that is the hardest part. So if you ask someone, who are you? What do you represent? Who do you serve? You'll get, maybe on Twitter, they'll say this. On LinkedIn, they'll say that. On Facebook, they have this. And they're all over the place. And so no one can go to you as an expert because you haven't figured out who you be. And so I always say, just sit still. Really think about who it is that you really are at your essence, at your core. What is it that you're trying to serve? What problem are you solving? And then from there, who are you talking to? Because, you know, if I'm talking with my girls, we're going to talk one way. But if I'm going to talk to maybe a group of dentists, I'll talk another way, right? So that you have to know who you are at the essence, but then also know who it is you're talking to. So I always tell people, I said, kind of clarify who it is that you are at your essence, what your brand is about. Is it going to be casual? Is it going to be professional? Is it going to be funny? Is it going to be energetic? Just all of the things about the brand so that it can stay on point with the messaging that you disseminate. And so a lot of times people are disseminating messages before they really even understand, like, what it is they're really trying to share out to the world. So I said, well, just think about, do like a quick little analysis of, what do people always say you're good at? Okay. What do people always like Danita was saying, that people were always trying to pick my brain. Don't let them pick your brain. Send them an invoice. So that so so you figure out exactly what it is that people are always asking you for. What is it that really comes natural for you in terms of really easy? It's easy for Dr. Stacy to MC and do that sort of thing. It's just like she could do it effortlessly. So that's part of her brand, celebrity MC, right? That's part of it. That's something that she does very easily. She's on the cover of Speakers Magazine. Put a little plug in here for her. But that's something that and the other thing, you know, she's a faithpreneur. So that's always going to be a part of her brand, no matter where she goes, wherever she is. Me, it's always Pam Perry, PR. Is the person that go to for PR. So just really understanding who you are first before you start really, because the messaging then is like, the messaging is on the website. The messaging is in your email. The messaging is in your social media posts, on your blog, in your podcast. And it has to be consistent. You know, I've got the Starbucks, right? So I've got my Starbucks right now. So the Starbucks brand is consistent. I don't care whether I go to Japan, if I go to Harlem, if I go to, you know, Texas, it's going to be the same. The brand is the same. So they know who they are, who they serve, what problem they're solving. And then they say that messaging through everything, through their app, through their social media, through their Twitter. So really just sitting still and understanding that first, that probably takes maybe 50% of what a brand, the components of a brand is, really having clarity about who you are and who you serve. That really is it.
So
I just want to
Pam,
jump in for a quick second, Danielle, because
okay.
Starbucks ain't sponsoring the show. So we'll say the cup with a straw until they sponsor from the ground up. Okay, I'm sorry. Go on to you, Danielle.
And what I was gonna say is, Pam, when you started giving your answer, it sounded like you were having church up in here because you were
Yeah.
like, you gotta sit still, you gotta know who you are, you gotta go deep within. I'm like, preach, Pam, preach.
That's it. That is, they wanna get the photo shoot first. I'm like, photo, you don't even know what colors people like. Okay. You don't even know what colors you like. It's like you want to get the photo shoot. Let's sit still for the color palette and the whole branding of this. So let's slow your roll because that's the foundation. It really is.
With that, Pam, I would say amen. And Danita, what do you think? How do you think joint ventures to develop their message?
I feel like what Pam just said was vital. She talked about building value components and assets to the brand, like your purpose and positioning. Like she summed it up. Find out what your purpose is and how to position yourself. And she delved into something that's very important: market research. You have to find your niche audience. Like she mentioned, you can talk to your girlfriends one way as opposed to talking to someone else that's professional another way. But your market research would be important to finding out what your niches with your brand, finding out your demographic, how they spend money, their age range, and you want to hone in to your niche because you can't be all things to everyone. You have to be specific and be solution oriented, as she mentioned. And once you do market research, I feel like that will help your brand develop traits and give it the personality that it needs so that it knows how to show up with people, and then you can go into all the fancy stuff, like she mentioned, the colors, the logos. That is not that important, but well, it is important, but it's 50% of it, like she mentioned. So your purpose will help your positioning, and then do your market research. Find out what solution you're solving for your niche, and then build the brand's character traits from there. And then that will be the theme on every platform. And like we can talk about more of how to build the aesthetic, but the most important thing I feel to build is the core.
And market research is so important, but so many business owners do not take the time to do the market research. It's like they throw mud up against the wall and see if it's going to stick. They have no understanding who their target market is. They're like, I have this product or service, and everybody is going to come in droves. And then you know what? It's crickets. They're like,
but well,
we can give them the real crickets.
Right. But it's not about your brand. It's about your consumer. Like, what are you offering to them? How are you serving them? And I think once you get out of the mindset, like, oh, everyone has to buy my brand, I have this to offer. No, people want to spend their money in places that make them feel better, or give them a solution to things.
And you know what it is? People are scared to pick a lane because they figure that they will be cutting themselves off from opportunities. And Andrew Morrison, one of our friends, Dr. Stacy, would always say, you get rich in a niche. And I remember he said that to me. And it's like, if you could pick a book is not for everybody. And I always say the only book for everybody is really the Bible. Okay. Because that's a universal thing. But but your book has a target market. So don't be afraid to say this is an African-American woman's guide to, or this is a such and such guide to, you're picking a niche because that way it's speaking to that person. You don't speak to masses. You speak to a person. It's the same thing with speakers, right? When you're speaking, they always say you don't speak to masses. You pick one person that you're going to speak to in that audience, and you look at them and you talk to them. But while you're talking to them, that avatar, you're talking to everyone who is like that. That is so key. That is very key. Someone said this last night, Yolanda Spearman. She said every pot has a top, and I was like, I'm gonna use that.
And I say, when you're trying to speak to everybody, you're speaking to nobody.
That's right. That part.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, this is really good. I hope everyone is passing this along. You're sharing the broadcast. Hey, Sandra, how are you, darling? Great to see you, my Sora in the building. So it's important to understand the basics, and you all really gave a lot all in the first opening of the show, right? You're talking about purpose and positioning. You talk about sitting still and getting clarity. And, you know, when you talk about Andrew, I'm laughing because I was so stubborn when we used to have those conversations with me. I'm like, oh, niche, Mitch, please. If they had a pulse and they were in 1 feet of me, they were my audience. But that was so wrong because it took so long to really understand how people would hear what I was saying. Because if you're not talking to the right person, it's like you're in the wilderness somewhere and nobody knows who you are, what you have to offer. So this is critical to collaboration and building the components of your brand identity. So I'm really excited about that. And Sandra has a comment. You all are speaking to me this morning. Thank you for a divine conversation.
Well, I'm sorry, Stacey, and thank you, Shonda. I was going to say, you know, we're talking about what that looks like for one person and a business owner. How much harder is it to convey, or I'll leave that to you, Stacey, but how much harder is it to become unified and to become one, like marriage, right? Because it is a marriage, in having that, to do that. Like, you know, it feels like it's harder because you're trying to take different personalities and merge them to be one brand.
Yeah, it's like dating, you know. So you know, your dude can't show up dating you one way on Friday and then trying to date you a different way on Saturday. You know what I'm saying? It's just like this is a relationship. It's consistent. I expect him to be this way, and then in the marriage, you expect him to be the certain way. So if you surprise your audience all the time by just showing up so different, they don't trust you. It's like, I can't depend on them. I don't know what they gonna do.
Pam, that's a very important topic because Dr. Stacey touched on it. Alignment. That's what's most important. Like, you can pitch to someone or want to connect with the brand, but if the alignment is not there, you're never going to be able to work it out. You're not going to be in sync. You're not going to be on the same page, and it's just going to be unequally yoked. So that's a great point.
Y'all preaching good today. But yeah, that it's true. Alignment is important. And we're talking about how do you convey that, especially if you're talking about joint ventures, collaboration, which is what our show is here to prove. Right? We have 3 individual businesses and we came together to form Queen Strategy Partners so that we could level up access to the things that we are providing and doing in the community with the collective brilliance. Because that's another thing. I think we sometimes get caught up that we think we the smartest one in the group. And Dr. Dennis Kimbrough talks to us about that. If you're the smartest one in your group, you need a new group.
Yeah.
But when you are able to collaborate, how do you start to really understand how to convey that? And hey, Kamal, great to see you, my friend. Oh my goodness, Kamal featured us, Pam and myself, with speakers. So talk about collaboration. And I didn't even know it. Kamal, I didn't even get a chance to send you an email yet. Just great examples in real time of how, when you see value, you participate in value, can open up doors. So when we're talking about this whole concept of collaboration, working with other people, offering value, what would you say outside of what you shared already? How do you start to figure out how to convey this merger of multiple businesses, multiple personalities? Like, what are some steps that someone can think of? Because they've been watching our show, they've been taking notes. They're like, wait, this could be a way to scale my business, not abandoning what I have, but now merging and collaborating. What should they do? Like, how do you convey that and still be true to who you are, but start shaping the identity of this collaboration?
Yeah, I would say one of the things, Dr. Stacey and Danielle, is what George Fraser tells us, our mentor, is like, be the first person to give. And so if you're trying to start a relationship, a collaboration, be the first person to give value. Show them exactly what your expertise is, how you can add value to what they're doing. You've done the research and know what they're doing. I'll say that again. You've done the research and know what they're doing. Okay. And I say that because yesterday I had a conversation, and I hope I'm saying this just in the standpoint of, they wanted to collaborate with the magazine. And so they had never seen the magazine. So how can you collaborate with me and you know nothing about what I'm doing? And it's like, you know, and they were saying something. I said, we already have that. Oh, you do? Oh, and we could do this. I said, we already have that too. Oh, really? Well, how many people? And, asking different questions that you could have Googled and probably found on the internet, on the website about the collaboration that you're trying to partner when we've got all that covered. So what are you bringing? What value are you bringing? And clearly they just were grasping at straws, trying to just amass as many, what I call just collect the people along the way without really getting in to understand the people. Everyone wants to feel personal one-on-one. So you want to do the research on whoever you're trying to collaborate with. So the first step is like, if I want to collaborate with Dr. Stacy on, say, Faithpreneur on her conference, I'd have to know what that's about, maybe do some research, look at who attended in the past, see what kind of people are there, what just the basic, not even like all that deep, but just basic, look at the website, you know, and then approach them and say, well, I see that you do this, I can bring this, and this is why, because I've seen that you've done that. It's the same thing when you're pitching media. So you just have to do a little bit of the homework, which we don't like to do the homework. We just want to just jump on the phone and just say, hey, let's just work together. But you need to follow people for a while. You need to connect with them on LinkedIn, Twitter, follow them on Facebook, see if their messaging is on par with yours, see if you have the same values. And so that's the first part, is just really doing that research and really giving first, just saying what value you're going to bring first. Let them then offer in return, because you're doing this first, then they'll do this second. And that's how it really kind of goes. You don't just jump in and just say, hey, do this for me. Like, why? Who are you? So yeah.
I don't know why, and this is so off script, but I'm hearing the song in my head, No Romance Without Finance.
If you want to be with me,
you want to be with me. Y'all pray for me. Right? I don't know why that was ringing in my head as you were saying that. There's a slight correlation.
There is.
It is. Me and Mark were laughing about that song the other day. Said those are the songs that we grew up on, right? It was I said they need to bring some of those back for them girls.
Exactly. But the romance is the getting to know, right? It's the getting to know what it is that brings that collaboration together. So you're stronger. And there's strengths that you have that another person might not, and they might be stronger in another area, but that's what builds. So I love what you're saying about that collective identity and doing that research. Danita, what are you adding?
Listen, when Pam was talking, I automatically thought about, like she said, communication, gathering data. And she mentioned one of your other businesses that you have, Dr. Stacy, I think Faithpreneur. When people get to know you, they buy into you, and then whatever you're offering, you can then align that way. But I feel like what Pam mentioned was great. Gather information, take the time, do the research, and prepare. It seems like most of us want to have shortcuts to things, but you got to put in the work. You got to put in the work, and that's
that part.
Important. You can get an intern. You can find someone on social media. Let them do your market research. Get some help. But people are. I feel you get a little offended if you don't do research by like who I am or what I do or what I have to offer. And then, like she said, we can have a conversation to find out if your offering aligns, and then we can build together. But they may have just seen all the glitz and glamour and was like, oh, Pam got it going on. She's doing this and that. Let me align with her. But find out what she needs. Get to know her. Do the research.
That is so key. And a likability factor is really important. And I guess that goes to emotional intelligence, but people have to like you. Yeah. It's like, you got to be likable. And sometimes I tell people, I mean, this is not something you can teach, but it's just basic networking, basic human kindness. It's just really caring about people. How about that?
Yes.
Caring about people. And so we can be so into business, but basically business is about people. And I hear George Fraser in my head, right? It's like business is about people. And if you don't have people, you don't have a business. So you really want to care about people and let people know that. And that should come off in your brand. The whole thing is people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And so when you have, Clubhouse teaches that etiquette too, and that sort of thing, where you're talking to people and you're courteous to people and you're kind to people and you offer help. those are the people that really get collaboration deals. That I know there was one mentor I had of mine, John Barfield, and also a client. He was a billionaire. He started out as a janitor, but he ended up in his life as a billionaire from Ypsilanti, Michigan, friends with Mark's family and that sort of thing. But he was a very kind man. He had conversations from presidents down to other janitors. He ran a janitorial business and became like a multimillionaire. But he was kind. He told stories. He really cared about people. He had humor. I mean, he didn't even have a college education, but he amassed amount of money because of his emotional intelligence that he had, and knowing how to talk to people, knowing just really caring and interested in asking questions, and really one time he was just like, long story, he's at U of M and he was just like being a janitor, and then people were just, he would just have conversations with people, and he would know who he was talking to, but they would just kind of like offer him opportunities because they saw his, excellence in everything that he did, first of all. But then they also saw that he was a person that they would know, like, and trust. And that's really key.
Pam, you say something that's very important, and that emotional intelligence and being kind, that's not something that, it's part art, part science, right? So we're talking about doing the market research, and being kind is like something that you innately should know, like love. How do you love? We know that. And then we just, it's like those things that you talk about is how to engage in the sandbox, right? From the time you're 3 and you give some, give another child, or you see another child crying, you just stroke their back. It's like either you have that or you don't. And hopefully everyone has that, because it should be just human innateness, but we don't, but I'm just saying that, that's the part that what we're talking about, it should be important, and it is very important, but we can't teach people that.
Dale Carnegie tries, I guess. That's
so either you have that, and that's part of the inner you, and that is gonna, you're talking about your brand and your image, who you are will show up, right? And that's the authenticity as well, like aligning that with the message that you're trying to intentionally convey.
Right.
Absolutely. You can hide behind videos and photos. And one of the things about the new social media craze with audio apps like Clubhouse is that your voice imprint, how you show up, who you really are, it will speak volumes. So you can put up a glossy photo, you can do a great marketing campaign, but people will get to know who you really are and feel good about that. Comfortable. Like, how do you feel? Like, I don't like to be in situations where someone is miserable or negative. Like, I'm allergic to that, right? So if I start feeling that, I'm like, I gotta go. Like, foot help the body. So we have to realize how we show up and how we make other people feel in creating this identity. What you talked about with vetting both of you in different ways, is there alignment here? What does that look like? How do we come together and people not say, well, this is like a lecture company. 3 of these kids are doing their own thing. Like, you go to this whole, like, something is not right. But if it feels right, like, wow, I can see how they all come together. I can see where those points of connection are for collaboration. It makes it easier as you move through the process. But we have another question. This is good, Danielle. Hold on. Let me give ourselves some more. All right, Danielle.
Well, Miss Dr. Stacey and Grant, my co-host, I feel like we kind of, already started talking about it. And that is, how do you establish the image you're building? And I touched upon it when I said part art, part science. I'm not the expert. So even though I said it, I'm going to go back to you folks that are here to share your expertise with us. So, Danita, how do you establish the image you're trying to build?
It goes back to what we were conversing about before, like having that brand have a personality and the emotional IQ to connect with other people and the consumers. When you define what the personality is of the brand, you can then build with your logo, your color palettes, the typography that you use to put out your materials. But the personality of what you define your brand to be is how you would then develop the images and what you want to convey, so people can feel and sense. Like, you're going to tap into all their senses as they come to your website or they stop by your Instagram or what have you. But something that you touched on earlier was like people need to see who you are and get to feel you. Sometimes you can't always get to the CEO, but the personality of the brand has to disseminate through every message that you translate out with marketing. So like I said, this with the logos, the colors, the relationships, showing where you have been, people you have impacted, what you have done, what solutions you've offered. So when you asked me that question, that's what came to mind initially.
Thank you. And Pam, your thoughts?
Yeah, this is the thing that I always tell people that are just starting out. And I even did this when I taught journalism too. I have them write their bio, and just look at on paper who are you? Okay, so if you just have a good bio, well written, short, have a really good photo, you can really start to develop and pitch yourself out there. You know, to have a good bio and photo. This is who you are. This is what I look like. And so you can have all the other things as well, but we start out, you think about it, if we're starting a brand, you know, the first thing we're building a website, the most visited page on the website is the about page. Yeah. So you need to know that. So we're building the brand across all social media. We got to put in the little bio. Everybody has a different lens, but it should all be consistent. They should not say different things like, you know, you're trying to do a grocery list of all the things that you do, but just narrow it down and you put that across, you put the same photo across. And I did that when I first started social media back in MySpace days, you know, a photo bio on everything. So it was the same imprint. For a long time, it was the same photo. And people would say, wow, I see that girl everywhere. It's because they're recognizing that photo. They're recognizing the bio. And it was consistent. And then your content then grows from that. Your content really shares your messaging. But starting with your photo and your bio is really just consistently across all platforms. Some people will have a one sheet. You know, that's fine. You can have a one sheet, but really in order to pitch you to the media, main thing we need to know is have a photo in the bio. And that's a whole art in itself, but just really having that succinct and consistent all the way across. And ladies, I mean, we do wear different hair different times, but for the most part, we want to keep the hair kind of like the same, you know, for men, they don't have that thing, right? Like, it's like,
either you have hair or you don't.
Right. It's either I don't have hair or no. So, but with women, you know, try to keep it as consistent as you can, not especially if you're just starting out your brand, you know, maybe for the first year, trying to keep it the same. You know, now at this point, I've been doing this like a couple of decades or so people could still kind of recognize me, even though I may have different hair. But for the most part, I always had that same picture for like a long, long time. And people can identify with that and say, oh, I remember her. Right. I see the same picture on Clubhouse. I see the same picture on Twitter. I see the same one. So that's kind of the main thing of putting that imprint in people's mind that that's who that person is. So that's really what that's how you start.
I'm cracking up. Danita, I'm going to let you answer that too, but I'm cracking up here because I just posted a random on social media with like 8 of my looks.
Yes, I saw that. I was like,
do you remember the bun? Because the bun is what people knew for so long, right? Until she had her own identity. My girlfriend, she threatened to do a Twitter page for Bunny. You just call it Bunny because I always have the bun, but everybody recognized that bun for so many years.
I do remember that. I saw that. And then also too, like the shorter hair where it was like pull out like that. Yeah, I saw that. I said, oh, the looks of Dr. Stacey N.C. Grant.
I was cracking up. But let me just pause on this before Danita shares. You said a photo and a bio. Pam, can you please be clear? Can we take a selfie and make that our photo?
No. We're talking like a professional photo, high resolution in the studio with a background, preferably that is white, especially for people that have darker hair. I mean, if you do black hair with a black background, then it's just a head sticking out, you know. So I'm just, you know, a professional photo that people can high resolutions. Do not take a seatbelt selfie. Well, the lighting was good. Oh no, you know, you're not ready.
It was bright. It was nice and sunny that day.
No. When my Ready, Set, Go Speak program, I give them a photo shoot plan. I was like, "Woo, it's a lot to it." Yes, it is. Okay, a photographer can only do as much as you give them direction for. It's the same thing with any creative director, you know, a website, a photo shoot. You give them direction based on who you are on the, sitting still with who your brand is and what it's about. So yeah, and the bio. The bio should not sound like an obituary. It's going to have some colorful words in there. Don't say on anybody's bio that says I was born. We all were born, okay? It's not gonna be on your bio. I was born in. I was born. I know you're born. I'm reading the bio. We know you were born. Don't waste those words. I'm really mean on them bios. I will cut them up.
Oh,
When you have a collaboration, excuse me. When you have a collaboration, should the bios be consistent? Should the photos be consistent? Or do you allow the individual personalities in the bio and headshot to
everybody through? If everybody is going to be in a collaboration, the photos should be consistent. So we just did an organization, the Black Door Society. Everybody's pictures we did. Everyone did a professional shot. We did an executive shot. So we all had in the same space. We're in the same kind of a pose. They're consistent so that we could see that those folks are together, right? So if you got one person a full body shot and someone just a head shot and someone else is looking like they're going to a party and someone else looks like they're going, you know, to a funeral. I mean, you need to look like you belong together. It's kind of like which one of those things don't fit, you know, so you want to make sure that they are all the same, even if it's just like they're all vertical or all horizontal, something so that they're all looking the same. And then the bios, everybody has their own part of the bio, but if you're doing a collaborative project and say you're doing like an RFP or something, you want the bios all to be the same length. That's the problem too. A lot of people are like, oh, give me your bio, and it's like 250 words, and someone else's bio is 100 words. You know, right. So all the same length. They're hitting the same points, and they're all talking about the same problem that you solve, but just from different angles. So yeah, they should be consistent in terms of so that the packaging looks the same. You want that whole brand to look the same. So I always tell people, please, if you're going to be in someone's telesummit and they ask for your photos and things like that, kind of do a little bit of research. What are the other people submitting? Make sure that you're not standing out looking so different. You know, like your shot is like, you know, you're on vacation in Jamaica and someone else's shot is just a basic, you know, a headshot. You know, like just do some emotional what would you say? EQ, emotional EQ, IQ.
Oh. Well, I just want to get some of these comments in the chat. And Danita, I know you're like dying to respond. So I just said, oh, this is good. She was getting ready to cut her hair. She said she'll wait for a while. And Kamal said, no hair jokes, please. And y'all just said, wait, the bio shouldn't sound like an obituary. Y'all are cutting up today. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing this out. But Danita, you've been waiting to answer that same question. Go ahead.
Well, what she said is key, having consistency with your message through every platform, keeping it clean, concise, and simple. But I think I'm going to have to use that term, Pam, like your bio should not be an obituary. That is funny. And that's hilarious. But yeah, your messaging should be the same, concise and clean along every platform. So people can learn how to trust you, and that's how you build trust.
Yes, that is.
So what about sharing a part of your personal, like some folks don't know where to draw the line. Should they share a lot about their personal self or just keep it all business when you're creating this identity, you're collaborating? So I just want to add on to that question. Is there some rule that people should be aware of when sharing about your personal versus your business?
I feel that now everyone wants to be authentic. People buy into you. And some of who you are has to come through. You have to be authentic. So I think there's a fine line between the two, but people want to be relatable. They just don't want everything so cold and cut and dry. And we've been talking about emotional intelligence, connecting, communication, alignment. How can we align with you if we don't know or some of your personality is not coming through? So I do think being authentic to who you are and some of your personality needs to show in your business.
And I think too, you know, because it's like people want to know your story. So you want to tell a little bit of your story. The thing that I caution people about is like, don't say so much of your story that you shock people or you bleed all over people. Meaning that a lot of speakers too will do this. They'll tell their story and then they'll say, well, I was, growing up, I was molested, I was raped, I was tortured. I was like, and the people are like, oh, oh my God, and it's like before they get to know you, you're bleeding on them, right? And so now you're repelling them instead of attracting them. There's a way to weave in part of your story in a part that lets people know the why, maybe why you're doing the work that you're doing,
Yes.
without just pulling it all out there. And it's like for shock value, it's like, oh, oh my gosh, she was a sex slave. It's just like, okay, well, there's a way to probably say that won't really get people to the point where they're now anxious about listening to you, especially for speakers. I'm just saying for speakers. For businesses, definitely you want to keep that very professional. But if you're a speaker, you do want to tell a part of your story that's unique. And while you're in the work you're doing, a lot of speakers are in the personal development space because they've gone through some things. And so they've overcome them, especially if you've overcome them. Because a lot of speakers so I will say this, a lot of speakers sometimes are speaking things that they have not overcome, and their speaking stages becomes their therapy.
Yes.
Right. And you don't, that's a rule of thumb, working with Les. And, it was like, no, you don't want to take the audience somewhere where you can't bring them back from. You can't give them that healing opportunity. So important. And shout out to Lester, our PSC brother in the building, supporting Queen Strategy this morning. But that was a good one. Definitely a good one. Pam, what about you, Danita?
What Pam mentioned, I think it is important. You got to learn how much to share and what's important. And again, being consumer based and offering a solution, and not, like she said, bleeding all over the place or taking them to places where you can't bring them back from. But I feel that being authentic to who you are, sharing some of your story so people can buy into who you are, that is very important with your brand. And again, finding your niche audience, the demographic, and finding your tribe, speaking to those people, because once you hone into what it is that you offer, you will find your base.
Can I was listening to you both, and I was kind of sitting still with it, because I think that's very hard, and you have to have not only the emotional intelligence, but the maturity as well. Yeah. Because now more than ever, especially in social media, and you look at a lot of these celebrities, they share things they have no business sharing. That their wife left them, or the da-da-da, like they say stuff that is so like inappropriate. Like, we don't need to know all that was going on behind the scenes. You see this with celebrities that they're like telling, he ain't paid the child support for 100 years, and he's whatever. And it's like people have bought into that culture of too much information, sharing things that people have no business needing to know.
But TMZ culture. But that is another type of branding and entertainment. Look at people like Kanye West and like the Kardashians, to bring that up. That is another type of branding that's intentional and purposeful. For some of us, it's too much, but then they have their audience, and it goes back to it works for them. It makes them money, and that's not unfortunately, but that is another way of branding. That is intentional.
But Danita and Pam, you said something specifically, Danita, just now, or you both said it before. Know your audience. Just because it works for Kardashians and they're ka-chinging to the bank, that doesn't mean you should try that.
Can't jump
right? That's being intentional and knowing what works in the space that you're in, and that's hence the problem.
And going back to your why of knowing that you can't hop on every trend that's out there. You stick to your why and know what works for you. So
that's true.
Absolutely.
It does. It works for reality shows, The Real Housewives of New Jersey, New York, Potomac, Atlanta, everybody. I mean, I don't do any of the Real House. I don't like reality shows. I guess I'm a baby. I don't like them. And the only one I did like was like maybe this one about remaking the house, and they would give the house to people. That would be like the only reality show that I like. But I don't like the drama. I'm I'm trying to get away from drama. I'm not trying to watch drama. So anyway, but that is part of the brand. But when people are, you could be authentic in social media and really people get to know you. But there is a point in time where if you're going to share something, does that really add anything to what the consumer, what Danita, what you said, does it add anything for the consumer to know about you? If it doesn't, it's just for your ego. It's just for your part. I mean, we're in such a culture of like, okay, does that really matter to anyone? Who cares? So we think everything we put out there, everybody's gonna care. No, they don't. They're looking in what's in it for me. That's really what they're looking for. What's in it for me? How can I relate to that? What does that have to do with me? And if not, they're just going to scroll. So you just have to know how to temper that. And that really does take marketing training, because social media is so accessible to everyone, but 90% of the people are doing it wrong. We call it content marketing. Does that help your content? Does that build your brand? If I go through anybody's stuff, it's like, this is so not really, that's not building your brand. Now, some people don't use social media to build a brand, but I think everybody has a personal brand. So you need to be consistent. I told my daughter, who was a teenager at a certain time, you are building a brand. You're building a brand. If you want to get into a college, you want to get a job, any of these things, it's building your brand. You want to get a scholarship, you're building your brand online. So we didn't have that years ago, this digital footprint, but now we do. So you need to be really over it and just make sure that you're consistent with what your quote unquote, your tribe is listening to and listening to from you, because you don't want to put anything crazy. If you're going to be political, okay, well then that's fine. You're going to have to realize that that's going to be part of your brand now, whether someone wants to do business with you because your political views or not, that's going to be a choice because you put that out there. So
you made me think of something that was really important when you mentioned putting information out on digital platforms. I thought about cancel culture and something that you mentioned to your daughter, being mindful and intentional about what you put online, because it can come back to bite you later. And we've seen it where people have written things on Twitter and brands have started to work with them. And then years later, people dig up tweets that they have put out there and canceled contracts, canceled partnerships and things like that.
Exactly.
So that's a great point, like being intentional about what you put on social.
It really is. It just happened just recently with Felicia Rashad. It just really was like, wasn't necessary for her to tweet. She didn't have to tweet that. But, it's so accessible. It's like, let me just sometimes just sit still. Just sit still, chill.
Sit still and chill. Look, that's the good one.
I like that. I'm telling you, you are preaching this morning, Pam. Okay, so I gotta give you another amen.
Sit still and chill. Oh my goodness, this is really been good. And I know, we could be here for hours, but as we start getting into some more, just the last bit of questions for today, because this was really juicy content. This blessed somebody. I know Sandra said, I don't know about everybody else, but this right here is a blessing. She said, sit still and chill, period.
Yes.
Yeah,
and we need the period with the T at the end, period. But when we talk about the two things that you both spoke on, the importance of the bio and the photo, when we start creating sort of these pitch decks, the way that people identify who you are as a company, who you are as a collaboration, what are some of the other pieces that businesses should start putting together to kind of have in their toolbox of brilliance? How do they put these pieces together? So you have the photo, the bio, what else comes next?
Well, something that we mentioned earlier is understanding your why. And I think when you start with the pitch deck, figure out, I like to start with maybe like a 3-page deck when I'm initially pitching someone. The photo, the bio, what is my why? What am I doing? And then maybe start off with a quote, something that's interesting to convey and catch people's attention, because sometimes people's attention span is very, very slow, very little. But you want to grab them in so they can immediately see, what is this person conveying? What are they offering? And how can they be a solution to what I need? And why should I work with them? Why should I give them money? But again, having that clean, simple message and just building your deck from there. I mean, we can talk a little bit more about that, but initially I think just keeping clean and concise with what you're pitching, because the initial pitch is not going to be the final deck that you convey to people. But, you first got to hook them in and draw them in.
I would say the next piece, really after they do their bio and their photo, and they're not really, they're in business. They bought the domain name and that kind of thing. And it's something that people can say and spell and say on the air without having to be confused. Not saying like the number 2 and it's the letter 2 and it's TWO2 or what, just it makes sense. That just makes sense to everyone. I said, make it so idiot proof. Okay. So when you're saying domain names, don't go for cute, go for simple. All right. So that's one of my main things. The other thing is just the website is next. The website is next. It's a whole strategy of really putting that together. That is your digital home. All the other things are things that are digital rentals. So you want to build your digital home. And so you start with that to really put together your pieces of where your content is going to reside. And so your podcast, your lives, all the pieces, even your deck and your one sheet and all of that. So really pulling together the website and the website strategy. But before you build the website, do the website strategy, because everything connects to that. How people will engage with you, the payment gates, that whole nine. And it's more than pretty pictures on the website, more than what it looks like. It's more than pretty pictures. It is a navigation, and you're making it user friendly.
Yes.
User friendly. And so I just say that, and that helps with your SEO. So people can find you. If you're not found in Google, you don't exist in this world today. So you want to make sure that that's really the next thing that you really do. You can take your deck and put that on there and upload it to your site, a WordPress site. WordPress site is probably preferred. There's other sites as well, but you have different plugins and things like that you can use with WordPress. So I would say just really understanding the digital landscape and ownership, because at any point in time, if you're building your brand and it's strictly online, say if it's strictly Facebook and Instagram, you don't own that. And they can like wipe out your followers. They can lock your account. You can go there one day and it's just not there. I mean, I've heard so many nightmares. So you want to make sure you're building your own digital platform of ownership.
So wait, just quick question. So you can't do supercalifragilistic.com?
I can't even.
I don't think I'll be searching for that in Google.
No, I can't even spell it or like repeat what you just said.
Yeah, digital. You're
So there's my answer.
Digital landscape.
I was just saying, supercalifragilistic, can't do that. No, I love it. Keep it simple and clean. I got caught out there with that the first time because we've had so many domains. My husband was like, "What? Can we just shrink this?" And I was like, "No, I want it. Keep it simple. KISS. Keep it simple."
Yes. Keep it simple.
I won't say the last one.
And then I would say this for Christians too, specifically. Don't be so churchy in your domain name and your logos. Like, don't have birds and doves and all the, Jesus going up in the air. It's angel. I'm like, oh my God, you're scaring people. Let's just keep it simple. And Jesus on the line. Jesus takes the wheel.com. I'm like, what is that? And I'm like, oh. I was like, I'm called to this because I will call you out. I said, that is crazy. That is crazy. You're not that.
Pam mentioned it's important that ownership is a very important component. I remember when I first started out, I had a YouTube page and I had gotten up to over 1 million views. Something happened with me putting in copyrights and it got shut down. And
they don't even call you back.
You can't even get on them on the phone. You said something so important. You gotta build your digital print on your own platform, your own website, and then you can go into the Twitters, the YouTubes, the Instagrams. But that hurt for a long time, losing all that content, that video, and that reach. So that's a great point.
And the same thing for me with Blog Talk Radio. I did Blog Talk Radio for many years. Started 2007. I interviewed Yolanda Adams, Kirk Franklin, Reverend Ron. Just a lot of different people. And then one day I went there and I was trying to hit the little things and my stuff wasn't there. It looked like it was there, but when I would play it, it wouldn't show up. I'm like, what happened to the content? I didn't have my own MP3s, right? They were on their platform. And so for whatever reason, I guess after so many years, they just delete them.
Yeah, that's whoa. Like we really need. So we don't want any of you to go through that because that hurts when you lose your content and you lose access.
Content is king.
Yeah.
Well,
So
your list is king, but content, you get your list from, so
yeah.
that's critically important. But in the interest of time, we have one more question that I've been itching to ask, and I know we are coming down to the wire. So if each of you ladies can answer this in like, a minute and a half or so, our last question is, with multiple partners, how do you brand it if all are not actively participating in a particular initiative?
That's good. If initially or just ever, like
Um,
initially.
well, I would say initially for a particular project.
Okay, then I would put them in a, well, you got to know the motives of the people. So if someone's not really involved, it's a reason, because maybe they don't feel like they're the right fit, or you're not giving them the right assignment or project. But give them something that they know that they can really champion and do. So if you have a group of, say, 6 people or 4 people, whatever, and there's one person that's always lagging, it's like, ask them, what is it part that they want to bring, something that's easy for them. And they said, well, I don't want to do the finance. I don't want to do the finance. Okay, well, you're trying to make them do finance. That's where they're not showing up, because they don't want to do the finance. Maybe they want to do something else on the project or the contract. So you give them that to do. So you just have to find their motives of why they're not showing up. The other thing too, if they're initially not doing it, is, I would say, lack of a better word, put them on blast. Like, put them on blast. Like, okay, you're going to present A, B, and C. I bet you they get in gear then, because now they're on blast. They're on Upstreet. So you're going to lead the proposal, or you're going to lead the such and then they will get it together. So you have to, like, sometimes get them going. It's like, we're going to put you on blast. And if they just kind of push back at that point, then they're probably not the right person for it, because they didn't want to be involved. But find out what it is, what their motive is, and then put them in that space.
But but if we're talking about from a branding perspective, and you get to that point where they decide not to participate, what do you do then?
In terms of like photos and things like that, or like,
yeah, just in the inclusion of that and the branding of that. So, do you continue to include them in that piece of branding for that particular initiative? How does that?
yeah, you do want to keep them, if they're part of the initiative, you do want to keep them involved. So you have a creative director, I guess you would say, and everybody has the same rules, so they have to abide by the rules. So a creative director will pull everybody together. Someone who's a creative director say, our brand is going to look like this. This is our messaging. This is really like our messaging. This is what you have to go by. These are our brand rules. And so they have to do that. But the creative director lays that out. The person that's over the creative for their brand. So.
And Danita?
Something that came to mind as we were talking earlier is, like, when you meet someone, or you take on a brand or a partnership, the consultation happens, and you got to put a contract in place. Like, you have to define what the boundaries are, the rules are, before you even move forward. So in the case of, if someone's dropping the ball, or they're not doing something that they should, you can then scale back within the parameters of the contract that you negotiated, and making sure that they understand, like, this is the end goal. If you don't meet them, this is the criteria. And then if they don't step up, you have to scale them back. Maybe give them a lesser role. Maybe put their logo on just the website as opposed to blasting it on social materials, or whatever it is. Defining things with a contract, I feel, is helpful, so that there's clear communication. There's no miscommunication. That's happened to me in the past, working with people without contracts, and then things fall apart, but you have no leg to stand on. So I feel getting things defined early on and understanding what each person is bringing to the table would help in making some accessions for that, in case there are adjustments. Because problems are going to arise. That's just a part of doing business.
That's life.
Of doing business.
And indeed, and the cost comes in a variety of ways.
Right.
And can you count the cost and pay the cost? Okay, all right.
Yeah,
That's a
and
whole
people
nother
pay attention when they pay. When they pay attention.
Indeed. Oh my goodness. Well, Danielle's about to close us out shortly because we are here at the top of the hour. This has been so incredible. Danita, Chantel,
Yes.
and Pam Perry PR. We just appreciate you. We thank you for sharing your brilliance with us. Thank you
Thank
all for
you.
tuning in. Yolanda, Lester, Shonda, Renee, Kamal. We appreciate all of you for tuning in, giving your comments, and letting us know that this was valuable. So you still have time to share the broadcast, let somebody else know about what we're doing with Queen Strategy Partners. And we look forward to seeing you again on our next show. We're here the first and third Tuesday, 9 a.m., bright and early in the morning, business people. You're supposed to be up. I won't judge you. But over to you, Danielle.
So, as we always say, or as I always say, you guys are used to me by now. We're dropping some golden nuggets of knowledge, but it does not become wisdom until you apply it. So, again, we had two phenomenal guests with us today. I mean, this information that they provided this morning, regardless if you have a collaboration or not, it was some golden nuggets, right? So we hope that you not only you heard, but you apply it as well. So we are your partners every other week. Miss Dr. Stacey and C. Grant and I, we're showing up. We just ask that you continue to show up. And we also ask again that you apply what you're learning, right? That means that we're doing the right thing. And so with that said, I'm going to say, make it happen, be productive, have a wonderful 2 weeks, because that'll feel like tomorrow. We're going to be right here in a hot second. Until then, be blessed and be prosperous. See you soon.